It's not about what you have, it's about who you have. It's not about where you live, it's about how you live. And it's not about what you do, it's about why you do it. Welcome to the Momentasize podcast. Today, I have a guest on. He is the king of mixing experience into business. That what he does and what his family has done has resulted in being in the top 5 places to stay in the entire nation, the top 5 places to stay in the entire nation for over 5 years now. Please help me welcome Greg Willits.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And good introduction there. It makes me sound better than I am.
No, not even close to that. But for the people who don't know you, Greg, just give us a little bit of your origin story and tell us about yourself.
Okay. Born in Marin County, California. Rural lifestyle. My dad doesn't like me saying it, but kind of an early hippie lifestyle.
Yeah.
Farm to table at an early age. I think I was a vegetarian and didn't know it. A lot of hard work for all of the food we had. A lot of hard work on weekends, building and fixing things around the property. That got me where I am today. I'm thankful for that. The other piece about Point Reyes is we were near National Seashore, and I learned at an early age to work really hard and fast and efficiently, get that work done, and then go play outdoors. Yeah. And that is something I've carried with me forever. Ended up getting lucky my whole life with friends, meeting people that dragged me along with them in positive directions. Ended up at a good high school because of that. Ended up going to college because of those friends. And ended up making great decisions based on my friends' input. And I always enjoyed smarter people. And I definitely could monitor people for failures and learn from those failures and not replicate them. Ended up at Chico State after Catholic.
That's the party school.
It is the party school. It was, and it's why I went there. And
is legit why you went there.
100%. 100%. But because I had been in this rural lifestyle, I had gone to Marin Catholic High School, wonderful high school, great teachers and administrators. And the great thing about Catholic high school is you test SATs or ACTs, and then they tell you where you're going and what you're going to do. Yeah. And my math scores were so great and my English skills were so poor. They said, you're going to be an engineer and you're going to go to Pepperdine or University of Portland, interestingly enough. Okay. I toured both schools. I was excited to attend either of them. I would have gone to University of Portland. But in the middle of that, ended up going with a friend to Chico during their famous pioneer days. And I had an exceptional experience, complete with, I think they would consider them riots today. Burning couches in the street. Certainly I didn't participate, but I was monitoring this as a 17-year-old high school kid. And I was not a big partier in high school, but and just experienced a lot, and in terms of females and options. And I was driving home saying, everything is possible at Chico State. I did not see any of that at the other schools, and so I pivoted, and I've pivoted my whole life. And as it turned out, this was a miraculous pivot for me. But I went home, and my parents, I was the first child to go to school. And my parents were pretty proud of touring Pepperdine and touring University of Portland and where I would go. They had friends that they respected that had gone to University of Portland. And my father said, well, we're not going to pay. Yeah. I said, all right, what if I had done a little research, and I said, what if I pay for semester? Would you pay from there? And if I'm successful, he said, sure. So I said, okay, it's $271 a semester. Yeah. Sold my car and paid for my first semester. And that's my start. But that's where I met my wife in the dorm elevator, met my incredible friends that are around the world. I met amazing families, cousins from the Middle East, and again, just grabbing onto friends that were doing better things. It's how I got into finance, and how I became more of an international traveler.
You obviously had pressure from your parents to not do that pivot, right? Like you said, you're going to do Pepperdine or University of Portland. You're like, no, I'm pivoting hard to Chico. Mm-hmm. How did you, I'm sure it sounds like there was pressure. No, don't do it. What made you still decide? Just the gut feel, being there? Like, how did you, I think sometimes we don't go with our gut and we listen to what our parents have to say too much. What was that, you just went with your gut, or what was that like?
It was gut. Yeah. It was gut. Yeah. It felt right. I would have been successful at the other schools. I definitely saw myself as I walked the campuses. Yeah. Maybe not as much at Pepperdine, but certainly at University of Portland. I felt proud to be accepted into those schools. But there was something about Chico, the temperature, shorts, and every campus has this, but exceptionally cute gals, which I landed one of them, and really fun, vibrant folks, and a social level. Yeah. And during interviews, I was thankful for the pivot, because I'm being interviewed by top finance companies. And you get to the end of the interview, and what you have any questions for us? Well, yeah. What are you doing at Chico State? Why are you hiring a finance guy? And I feel confident I have good grades. I've studied. I've done my work. He said, well, you have great grades. You have done your work. You have exceptional testing on what is that called? Financial planning. Yeah. But we have a bunch of people that are bright and brilliant and from big name schools in the back office crunching numbers and figuring things out. We don't have anybody to translate that to the layperson, to the mom and dad that are investing their money, to the mom and dad looking to insure themselves. And we need that conduit. And you happen to have balanced an incredible social life, evidently, because they were at Chico State for a weekend, and concentrate on grades and take Italian minor. Like you've done a lot, but you'll be able to talk to anybody. And the truth about that school is, in most schools, I would assume, is you do learn how to talk to anybody. Yeah. You're not in your dorm room long before you figure out. You gotta make connections. Yeah. Connections are where it's at.
Yeah, that's like, I think that everything in life comes from the relationships we have, right? And it's also all the wealth and richness in life comes actually from the relationships, not from the things that we have, but purely from the relationships that we get to build.
You nailed it. That's it.
Yeah. So after college, did you then go and become a financial planner, or what happened? Is that what you were doing, or what happened there?
Oh, Dirk, it's going to be a long conversation. I had, like I said, I was fortunate. My grandmother came over through Ellis Island, and I was just around Italian family. Yeah. So my highlights in life were when we had Italian meals with the Italian family. Loved it. Got to Marin Catholic High School. Mrs. Roccanello taught Italian.
Okay, Mrs.
So I took Italian in high school. I felt Mrs. so proud. She's a solid one. Yeah. She's one of those along the way that gave you the kick in a different direction.
Yeah.
But Italian was where it was at. Got to college, they had a minor in Italian, and I knew I'd be busy, but I wanted to follow through for my family, and took Italian. Final day of classes, my Italian instructor sat me down, handed me a pamphlet for study abroad, and said, do not miss the opportunity to study abroad. You're the worst student I've ever had. You translate in your forehead. I can see you reading script in your brain. You're a horrible math guy. You need to live with a family. So I did what anybody with a great job out of college would do. Called the company and said, would you mind waiting 3 months? They said, sure. Then I sent it in, and then I asked my wife if she would mind waiting 3 months, and she was not as happy as the job. But I got to Italy, and it changed my trajectory, just the lifestyle, and enjoying culinary class, lingual skills training, and living with an Italian family, picking out the perfect tomatoes every day. It made it hard to come back and take a financial planning job. So I pivoted, and simultaneously, or right after I finished school, my dad came over and vacationed with me in Switzerland. We did hut-to-hut hiking. We were a very outdoor family. And when I told him, like, I'm so excited to get home and take this job and make the top money out of school amongst my fellow finance graduates, he was like, why would you make money for other people? And it kind of hit me a little bit. I don't think it hit as hard as it did when I was trying to sign paperwork for the new job when I got home. But he was from a family of innovators. Great-grandfather, obviously, innovate to come to America from Italy. Other great-grandfather, innovator, left Michigan to do land baron work in Colorado and, trade, hustle land deals. All of them no one worked for people. My grandfather, whom I'm named after, was a door-to-door salesman his whole life, and built from there to not wanting to walk the streets anymore and figuring out how to do a catalog. And so I did not get a job in financial planning out of school. I got back to take that job. I drove 2 hours in traffic in the Bay Area and realized I don't want to start my life like that. So I pivoted right there, pushed the half-filled paperwork back across the table, got a really pissed off look from the woman who had waited 3 months to hire me. And I called my cute girlfriend / wife and said, when's your next 4 days off? Because we're going to check out places in Oregon and in Washington, stay with family and figure out what the next step is, but it's not in the Bay Area. She thought I had lost my mind, but we ended up going all the way to Everett, Washington, and we settled after deliberation in Corvallis, Oregon. I had no idea what to do, but I knew I wanted to do something on my own, so I sold my pickup truck, sold all my investments, and we bought 2 homes on one lot for $106,000. Fixed up the back home first, and rented it, and then started working on my house while my wife prepared to get married. And by the time we were married, I had a kitchen that was clean and organized and beautiful. I had a bedroom that was clean and organized, and a master bath that was clean and organized. And the rest of the house had 6 layers of wallpaper and orange carpet and was atrociously smelly, dirty, nasty. But we started there.
Yeah. So yet again, your gut led you to make this huge pivot. I mean, not a lot of people, when they're signing halfway through the paperwork, would be that in tune to listen and be like, actually, this is not what my gut is telling me to do. And then also have the ability, and quite frankly, the balls to follow through on that, right? Like, I think even just the pressure of being there maybe would make you finish up. So you did that pivot, and then sounds like it was just going with your gut, listening to those omens again. And then your first venture into entrepreneurship was actually really real estate based, in Corvallis, real estate based, buying that real estate, fixing it up. Did you end up selling it, or what happened after that?
Well, we fixed up that house in a very personal way,
you did all the work yourself?
Yes. And that was...
Because you weren't doing 9 to 5 right now. You were starting the life, getting married, fixing up the house.
Yeah. Along the way, having figured out how to do a kitchen and full linoleum or whatever, people then knew how to do that, or they were in your house and knew how to do it, or re-roof. And I had accumulated tools through the process. So I'm fixing up the house. People want me to do a project. I would go do a project.
So you would go pivot.
Without a contractor's license. Just helping people. But make a little money. My wife's an RN. We had insurance. We had the foundational stability where I could go play, and she actually enjoyed that process. The flexibility. When we had our first child, we had tremendous flexibility. He would come with me, sit in a Jolly Jumper as I'm demoing houses or, painting outside. And, if she weren't working, she'd watch them, and we kind of floated that way for a while.
Yeah. How long did you do it like that?
4.5, 5 years.
Wow.
But it got to the point, and this is a time where we were buying things at 9% interest. You were turning them as fast as possible, started buying homes, fixing them, flipping them. You were buying them as fast as possible because with a point up front, a 9% loan, you didn't carry very long. You made deals with homeowners with really funky properties to carry the paper. And turn those homes. But it gave me a creative outlet.
How many homes did you do? All in Corvallis or what?
All in Corvallis. I 3, 4. So we ended up with a duplex out of it. After my son was born, I was like, this will be college education money.
Yeah.
If I finish this duplex right on the OSU campus.
Yeah.
Right across the street from Oregon State University football stadium, and Hilton Gardens went in right there, and I was sandwiched between a monster apartment complex and Hilton Gardens and a little duplex on, I think, a half acre, 3/4 of an acre. But it got to be where I was doing more and more side work. And then crunching in those projects that were personal and made me money or made me an investment.
Yeah.
But that duplex we paid off in 15 years, 9% interest. Probably paid the bank more than the homeowner I bought it from.
Isn't that funny?
It is fun. It's not funny. It's really not. Yeah, that's why I enjoy talking to bankers today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my start.
You guys still own that? Did you sell it?
We sold it because I had a child go to NAU, child go to Boulder, and then the final child went to Boulder as well. And we were like, obviously my son came back from Boulder and went to Oregon State after we had sold it. But we transitioned that money into commercial property, which didn't have a bunch of bathrooms and showers that kids were in and rotting floors, and it's become a little easier. But it brings me a good point there. The inefficiencies, I'm a very efficient-minded person. My wife is 50% of all of these things. So she was game as I was doing this work. Until we had a child, until we wanted a second child. And then she started massaging we actually need regular income, and regular schedules. It's better for children. She understood childhood development. So we started pivoting there as well. And that wasn't me. That was my wife. Yeah. And I don't think at the time we had a 50-50 relationship in my mind. I certainly felt I was pushing a little harder on things. But she started putting her foot down on things and taking over a little bit more of that 50-50 role. So that pivot, instead of a single guy making pivots, became, instead of a speedboat, became a bit of maybe a travel cruiser.
Yeah.
And it took a while to turn
on board.
Throw the kids on board. You're on the yacht.
Life jackets
yeah,
on.
You might need a tugboat to take you to dock. And that's an important piece of my life, and probably had some resistance to it in the beginning.
You did, because now
sure.
you're trying to bring structure into what was pretty flexible.
And I know what's right. I felt good about my education, my work ethic, and building blocks. And I'm a Lego builder. Yeah. I started a foundational level. I'm operations as much as dreamer. And we were going somewhere, and I think she definitely had ideas of being a stay-at-home mom, enjoying the kids and educating them, being there for them. This lifestyle did not work. Yeah. So then Greg.
So what'd you do?
Greg 2.0.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I'm from a large family. Five kids in the family, and my brother had graduated Chico State, having visited me, and realizing.
Were you the oldest brother, or where did you land in the five?
Oldest brother of 4 brothers. Yeah. My sister is older.
Okay.
And she at that point was a little having challenges with alcohol, I think, and just life. But so she didn't factor as much. She was there for a lot of adventure and a lot of fun. But also having kids of her own and going through some struggles. So she was not as involved in certainly the business lifestyle. But my brother had graduated. He had gotten a job in the Bay Area selling computer-related hard drives and computers and laptops and screens, monitors and
computer
memory.
Age. He was taking.
This is 1994.
Yep.
1996, and he got a job with a company. They wanted to expand, and he was in Arizona, going to go to Nashville. He wanted somebody in Arizona to take over a region, and at that point, again, thanks for mentioning pivot. I pivoted, realized I either needed $1 million to flip homes efficiently and make money. I needed lower cost cash, or I needed a different line. The opportunity in Arizona was fun. Arizona was like a college city at that point. So many new people, so many new developments. When you showed up at that development, it was somebody from Chicago and somebody from Georgia, and everybody was like a college kid, but with 2.3 kids. Wives hang out, guys make money. It was a good lifestyle. Took the chance, sold that place in Corvallis, kept the duplex, even living in Arizona, managed it from afar because I knew it would pay for college for boys. And took off down to Arizona, started a whole new line. I did not understand computers or emails at that point. I did not go to college when computers were popular. And my wife, don't tell my teachers, typed all my papers for me because I didn't learn typing. Because Marin Catholic, only the football players could do that, and I played soccer, so I was not allowed to take typing.
No, you couldn't.
But transitioned to that job, a steep part of the learning curve again. Yeah. I find I love that, whether it's adventure outings, business ideas. I really love steep part of the learning curve. Yeah. Like a lot of investment and a lot of return for that. Started doing that and was instantly successful at that. It was sales back to the Chico State
relationship,
communication, and my upbringing with a father who was very open, mother who was very open with things. I think it gave me the ability to talk to anybody, which is a great asset and great tool. I think you might have a little bit of that if I'm
one of my strengths,
little bit. Yeah, it is a strength. You've always been great at that, Dirk.
Thank you.
So did that for a while. We were making a lot of money for other people and realized that.
Yeah.
And my brother was from the same blood. We were in an industry without a whole lot of trust. And you can trust family. Yeah. So we kind of set up a plan with a partner to break off on our own, partner being somebody with cash. And ultimately, as all these stories will go, there was a hiccup, there was a problem, and the guy pulled out at the last minute with the cash. My brother and I looked at each other. We already had rented a place to work, and we're like, we're just going to grind this out.
Make it happen. Start
with no cash. And I was just at Final Four with my friends last weekend in Arizona that I met through this, and I have friends all over the world because I meet good people. And she reminded me that I spent as much time in the accounting office as I did on the sales floor selling to buyers, because we had zero money, and I would just scrape together, $300,000 for a deal, put it all in that product, wait for FedEx to show up with air freight coming from Europe or Asia, and then hand deliver it to the back, loading dock, which I knew everybody at the loading docks. I'd be like, sign this piece of paper, I delivered it. And then I go into accounting and say, hey, I just delivered this $300,000. Where's my money? Yeah. They'd be like, we don't even have it in our system yet.
And you're like,
but I'm hounding them for money because I have another deal with that 350. And, my brother was in the same vein, and we were just working it. It was a brokerage firm. We were taking products from Europe and Asia that were maybe in surplus, bring them back in the U.S., taking items that were in surplus in the U.S., shipping over to Europe and Asia. We had financial minds. Both he and I graduated with finance. We understand currency exchange. We understand strength of dollar, weak dollar. We were playing a lot of those games, a lot of arbitrage opportunities, and it was so much fun. And high stress. We had my wife and I Debbie had a second child, and things were good there. We were making good money. And my brother's a forward-thinking guy. And I think I was working 20-hour days.
Yeah, you were just it was nonstop.
Yes, you would. I always woke
20-hour
up early.
days. Some people work 20-hour weeks.
Yeah. I would sleep at the office, just wake up oh heck, I gotta make calls to Asia right now, or Europe in the morning, and then Asia till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, midnight.
So you went from just to unpack it, you guys went from starting it, you thought you're going to have some cash, then there was no cash, you did it anyways, and then how many years or how long did it take you to get through that initial no cash period to now you're making some really good money?
3 years.
It's 3 years.
2.5 years.
And you just you just willed it into existence.
Yep.
Yeah.
Willed it is a good way, because a lot of people would have bailed when the cash guy pulled out.
Yeah.
And wouldn't have thrown everything they have into the project. And it literally was everything I had. It was every penny I had. And we were paying for an office building that really said we were going to be somebody and we're going somewhere. Yeah. But we were two guys in a big office with cheap secondhand, not cheap, good looking secondhand furniture, and conference table for nobody to be at. But we were dreamers.
You went all in.
We went all in. Yeah.
So you're 3.5 years into it, and you're talking about how your brother's a forward thinker.
Yeah, dude, at the time, I would say, okay, he's a forward thinker, and I hope this is not offensive to him. He's a forward thinker who also hustled where I was efficiently working through things. I would efficiently try and get 12 hours of work done in 8. I think he would focus, I hope he's okay with this, he would focus on getting somebody else to pick up the 6 hours so he could have 6 hours of work and go wakeboarding.
Yeah.
In early days, like, I will do dishes tonight if you clean the garage. Like, oh, I don't like dishes. Okay. And then, roll around to that time and my mom would do dishes. I'd never dawned on me like, I just got hustled. You clean
the garage and your mom did the dishes.
Exactly. And he still is a very good at that.
Yeah.
He always has prioritized. He's a long distance runner today. A lot of time on the trails. Great father, great husband, but still carves out time for himself, which is a great attribute. I sometimes put it to the back burner.
Yeah, I mean, 20 hours a week, there's no time for yourself there. So 20 hours a day, excuse me. Yeah. You were going hard.
Yeah. I will jump back into my wife, though. She managed everything at home. I could not have done it because I was still in my mind prioritizing family. It was just how I was raised. Prioritizing family is to make money so they are comfortable and they get to do everything they want to do. And my wife is very humble and simple on what makes her happy. Kids ended up being humble and simple on what that makes them happy. But I just had it in my mind. You graduate, you get a job, you make money, and you grind it out to make more. Ultimately, not the path. I would go back and do some shifting there. Not a whole lot, because I love where I'm at today with everything I've been through. But she started playing a little better role in wanting to see me. My brother, being this guy that forward thinking and figuring out a process that took him out of the equation more. We were dealing in computers. We were on the computer every day. We started doing spreadsheets of available inventory, automatically matching those up with people that needed those inventories. And the natural next step was to create a website where that smart logic existed. And it was before eBay. This is 1999. Maybe eBay's 99, but it was more B2B, business to business. It was not business to consumer. And we started down that vein. That vein ended up costing a ton of money at a time where 2000 rolled around. A little tech crisis might have occurred. And we got in. That was our first disagreement. Like, hey, I don't need to pay for this website. We can develop it in-house. We hired a bunch of people. We're building a big business, and the writing was on the wall. Big business was not going to survive the tech crunch. So at that point, a pivot occurred again. He believed in that vision enough to offer to buy me out. And so I sold my shares to him, and it came at exact same time, Pivot 3.0, where my wife sat me down in a very sweet Debbie way. and said the following words: "The whole family would like to see you rather than your paycheck." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And it paradigm shift for my role as a father and as a husband. I'm not joking. If you were in my head at that point, I was straight A+ across the board on my vision of a man, my vision of a father, my vision of a husband. I said, "Hey, I coach soccer. I coach t-ball. I show up." And she goes, "You show up a minute late. You're on your phone the entire time. You're yelling at the kids' instructions. They're learning from you because they're terrified. But and then you jump as soon as it's over, a pat on the back, a hug, a kiss, and you're off. And we don't know if we're seeing you for dinner because you're back at work. It's not 5:30 is not the end of the day. It's the start of Asia Day." And so she hit me at an incredible time in my life where I was figuring things out with my brother, not comfortable moving forward with the tech investment. I knew I could make money. We were making a lot of money, a lot of money. And I kind of enjoyed that. I didn't want as many employees and things. I didn't want big banners.
Yeah.
But so that started Pivot 3.0. And that was the most unique pivot because it was driven. And I said in the beginning, my wife has asserted herself, always played a 50-50 role, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that that she influenced me along the way. I really felt like I was driving the bus, and in reality, I was probably backseat. Yeah. And at this point, it became evident that my kids might be driving the bus at 5 and 7. We came back to Oregon, visit my family, and the kids hid from us, did not want to go back to Arizona, and then gave us pieces of paper. I wish I had kept them. My wife may have, that said the reasons we don't want to go back to Arizona. And it was kids sweating. It was ice cream melting. And another key point in all this is I grew up without TV. We did not. We hooked up to like a monster rabbit ear on top of the water tower to watch 49er games when the Italians came over. And that was when we didn't work and we got Coca-Cola, which was a true miracle. And I had raised those kids without TV, and they were outside. Like I grew up in near a national seashore, except they were in 120 degree weather. They would play outside and just wither down to nothing. They would ride bikes and sweat and just give up.
They drew you a picture of kids.
They did, and at that point, my mom is a strong woman in their lives, and my dad was a fun grandpa. They lived in Sisters and moved there because we moved to Corvallis, and then we left. But Sisters was a great place to come back to. So I went to Sisters without any idea what I was doing next. In the middle of it, I had sold the business and started disaster restoration, and again made tremendous amount of money in it. So my idea was to start that in Central Oregon, and we moved up here without a job, without any real direction. But the kids had successfully described how miserable they were in Arizona, though I had a great life there. And so we moved and we bought land within 3 months. We had plans from coolhouseplans.com, and I'm not joking. Cool House Plans. And that is 2003. So those are some early tech website innovations. And we built a home on that lot in Sisters. I had always wanted to build my own house, and I built 90% of it. I did not do sheetrock because I wasn't efficient at it. I did not do the roof, though I wanted to, because of timing, because we needed to get inside there. But everything else, flooring, plumbing, electrical.
You did all.
I didn't do electrical, and I didn't do HVAC. Everything else, and all the crafty stuff. But like any good entrepreneur that doesn't know how to work less than 20 hours a day, the house was started and completed in 6.5 months. And
That's a
was
big deal.
2,800 square foot home.
Yeah.
And it had creative stuff. Kids got to pick their own paint.
That's awesome.
So now we're at FivePine.
Yeah.
Is this good timing?
This is great
All right.
timing. It's beautiful timing.
So my dad is monitoring this ridiculous guy building a house. He's helping. He was a plumber in the city before he was an entrepreneur. And so he was plumbing with me and watching me be a maniac. I think part of it, he was trying to tell me to slow down, like my wife, and enjoy what I have and kids. And I was trying to get through it. But he watched it, and I think with excitement as he was strategizing, building FivePine, said the guy could build things.
Yeah.
And going back a little bit to that hut to hut throughout Europe, and where he told me, if you work for somebody else, you make them money. If you work for yourself, you make yourself the money. He had strategized on that trip that sisters could benefit from that adventure wellness lodging. It didn't exist at that point. This is 2005. It didn't exist in Sisters. He had started with a health club, bought land, started with a health club, which he worked out every day of his life, still does, 77. And he was planning cabins and a lodge, restaurants, and my mother started Shibui Spa. Was passionate about massage at that point, still is at 76. And really said, hey, and again, this is pivot, I guess, it came to me, and this is just my memory, and I was reluctant I was helping him run errands for the project and track down planning and file with the city and those type of things. And then suddenly he came to me, hand me a commercial contractor's book, and he's like, okay, I signed you up for the contractor's license. You have like 6-7 days to learn this book. And I sat there, and he goes, Pa, I did all this stuff, but I'm not formally trained. And he just said, I don't think anybody else could build as well as you, or have the finance degree and the business law and all of those pieces. This book probably represents everything you already know. I'm like, okay, read the book, took the test, fine, pass. And he only needed it temporarily to get a signature on the permits so he could file and then find a contractor. This is now 2006. Everybody's building in Central Oregon. And I just rolled through to then building. And my friend connections, my buddy from the third grade had a large construction company in the Bay Area. He wanted to move to Sisters, so he moved all of this excavation equipment up. He was going to do infrastructure. 2007 hit in the Bay Area, started slowing down. He couldn't leave there to come do it, but all his gear was here. We had to start the project, and he said, you can do it. We taught you how to do tractors out on a ranch. I'm like, yeah, that's very different from a full-size excavator and doing thrust blocks for fire hydrants and electrical conduit for transformers. But again, just jumped in and did all the excavation, every push out, every slab, every compaction, every fire hydrant, everything there. He ended up sending up his nephew, who was an incredible kid, to help. And he managed it from there when we got into the cabins. But if you walk around that...
How many cabins did you do there?
That initial phase, we did 24 cabins.
Yeah.
And
you did all the excavation.
All the excavation, but that cut into my time of building the cabins.
Yeah.
And we had a contractor building the lodge. We had a contractor building the conference center. I did all the dig outs for those, all the site prep. And then I had a problem because we were all coming out of the ground at the same time. And this was a 1-year plan. All that was built in a year, from an excavator digging the hole to rolling sod with guests walking over you to the front door of their cabin was a year. I think slightly under a year. But I got creative and knew I could not frame cabins in that time, so we panelized them.
Yeah, that's before panelizing was really popular. It's become popular now, but that was not, when you were doing that, that was not popular.
No one knew what they were doing
exactly,
with it. Yeah. No one knew what we were doing, period. It felt like we were innovators. I had seen it. The guy I had worked with in the disaster restoration space had done mobile homes. Yep. And then he got into panelizing. So I knew there was something out there. So I went to the truss company and said, instead of building a truss on these little jigs you have, just build me walls and throw the Tyvek behind it, throw the proper nailing on this.
And they did.
And they did. Yeah. And we got it done quickly. And efficiently, and they were excited to do this process, to learn from it, to replicate it elsewhere. Sadly, I don't think they survived that downturn.
Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't.
A lot of people didn't.
So you built, just from a time frame, you're building this as the downturn's hitting, or where are we at compared to 2008?
We're at the phase, I see a little bit of it today, of you look around, you're like, man, everybody's making money.
Yeah.
It's all groovy. This is great. Yeah. And stock market seems a little high, overvalued, a little greedy. Yeah. We're a little greedy right now. We knew writing was on the wall, but we're in the process. And again, you submit paperwork. You're filing for a zone change 4 years, 5 years before this to get this project done. So you're locked in.
Yeah, you've been waiting for 4 or 5 years, and now you've got the approval. It's time to go.
And we're going.
Yeah.
And then you're starting to see writing on the wall. You're starting to see some challenges. I'll get to the greatest point. We knew the challenges were there. Mm-hmm. It was a very clear moment and a clear day in my mind. But we're doing this project along the way, picking up incredible craftsmen and people that wanted to work with us. We were very organized. We were very passionate. Our story and our ability to communicate our story. And I say my mother, my father, myself, my brother's doing the website. We were passionate folks. We're a passionate family. People were jumping on board with us that were incredible. We built an amazing project under budget, on time, just through 20-hour work days. And 3/4 of the way through that project, or just at the end there, my father came to me and said, "Hey, I have bad news." And he presents it. I don't even think he said bad news. "I've called all your siblings and told them the bad news, but I have a brain tumor and I need you to transition this. And here's a list of things that we need to do." And I was like, "Can we back up a sec? You have a brain tumor?" I think I was his business partner at that point. So it was a business, not family. But that was another kick in the shorts of Why are you doing this?
You're three quarters of the way through finishing all the buildings, and that's when.
Yeah. Maybe we rolled out that sod, but he was gonna run this lodge. He had passion of running this lodge, and he's a very creative, passionate man. That conversation was like, oh, okay. I had 100% plans of not doing hotel industry.
Yeah, you were gonna build. You weren't gonna operate a hotel.
Finance, sales. Like, I'm not guest services. Yeah. I was not a patient human being. I did not like complainers. Yeah. And ultimately, I will tell you, not liking complainers, you just make sure everything's great for those guests. Yeah. So they have nothing to complain about. And if they complain 3 times about the same thing, we change it. Yeah. We change out the TV. If they don't like the sheets 3 times, we change sheets. Because I don't like complainers.
Yeah,
did I say that?
That's a good,
right?
yeah, you said that.
I think I did. That was an interesting point. Simultaneously, back to the moment we knew the housing crisis has really erupted, we had Lehman Brothers in the conference center for a finance meeting, a strategy meeting, and unbelievably, their phones all rang at the same time. It felt like a scene out of a movie. They all walked straight through the lobby, said, we've all been laid off. The company's closing their doors. I don't know if you'll be able to charge us our credit cards. And we sat there. I mean, obviously, you can imagine we had 32 rooms at the time, 32 rooms. 32 rooms rented to Lehman Brothers. They've rented our conference center. We're serving them great food and life is great. 1 minute. The next minute, they're all grabbing their bags and running to their cars, passing through the lobby, telling you the credit card may not go through. And this is within the first 2 months, 3 months of opening. And just one of those moments you won't soon forget. And I say this a little bit in jest, but nobody works for free like family. Yeah. So at that point, with those cabins and everything we had going on, we were also managing a restaurant. My mom's managing the spa. At that moment, we had maybe 13 employees managing that whole place. We went to that level, and we just hunkered down, pushed through, played a soft game of, I was back to being on the dock, delivering product, asking for that cash so I could do another deal. Yeah. And we were hustlers, and my family's hardworking, hardworking. My wife was doing laundry. We're a hardworking family. Yeah. Good times or bad. We know how to work. So that was the final pivot. I've been at FivePine since, and quite proud of physically building it. I have some blood on those 2x4s, 2x6s. And I know where every pipe is buried. And it's worked out well. We have little problems. I'm like, oh, the valve's over here.
Yeah,
and,
no problem.
Yeah. And now my job is back to Chico State. It's back to people. It's back to communicating, and as much with guests as employees today. And, that's where I think creativity for me exists today, is employee maintaining a healthy group of employees. I work with some people that were the first people to clean the rooms, first person to host an event in the conference center at, I gotta believe, 18, 19, 20 years old. Still work with her. I work with amazing people today, and that is That's a success today. That's my sales today.
How do you think you guys became, thank you for sharing that whole story, but what do you think the secret sauce was to becoming now top 5, not places in Oregon, not places in Pacific Northwest, in the nation to go and visit for so many years in a row? How do you become a top 5 spot in the nation to go and visit?
Dirk, how do you not become a top 5 place in the nation when you have a passionate mother giving massages at an incredibly creative, beautiful spa? Cabins set us apart from each other, nestled in a forest where we turned every cabin to fit in between trees so we didn't have to cut trees down. We built a water feature that people ask where the headwaters are. Like they think it's a real river, and it just disappears. Yeah. But passion, man, we have a tremendous passion. My father, mother, brothers, creative, artistic, and we designed a place that we want to go. My dad also, tremendous romantic man, passionate man, a great figure in my life on making sure your wife is happy, making sure she's feeling fulfilled, getting what she wants. You can do whatever you want if you're working together. And I don't know how can you not succeed if you have somebody put physical sweat into the place, worries about chipped furniture, worries about the wildflowers coming back every year, how the lawns are maintained with organic fertilizers and a fair bit of manure and just. I don't know. Every detail matters, and I'm doing reviews right now with staff. They're telling me the same thing. Every detail matters to them. My head of maintenance built the place with me. He was in the ditch with me, putting together pipes, and he knows where every pipe is laid as well. And he's passionate, and he didn't realize it until maybe 5-6 years ago. He started realizing, I'm as passionate about this place as you are. He could put it into words, but everybody that works there is passionate about it. We hire empathetic souls. We don't necessarily hire guest service geniuses, formally trained. No, I don't think many people have been through some sort of hotel hospitality training. We hire empathetic souls that connect with people and make their lives comfortable. It's a good spot in the world.
It's one of my wife's and myself's favorite places where we go to staycation, and I couldn't agree more. There's an energy and feeling on your property that when you get there, you just instantly feel this amazing relaxation. And you're right, you guys have just... It makes a lot of sense to me of why it's been a top 5 place in the nation to visit, because it's one of our favorites. And so you guys really, that passion, what I'm hearing you say is the secret sauce is the passion that's been run every single day, not only with your family, but also your extended family, which are your employees there. Yeah. And it's a beautiful place.
Thank you.
Go visit FivePine if you haven't yet.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. I think people get it. If you read, we have positive thoughts books in every room. I hope you're writing in them. If you read those, they're describing our mission vision. They say it. They say we reconnected here. We have been scattered. We have been busy. We haven't paid attention to what really matters. You gave us a place, a canvas to realize that. You gave us a canvas to reorganize our thoughts where we want to be versus where we are. I think that's a little bit of secret sauce as well. I don't think you can get that from a box, and you can't learn that lesson. I could not have run FivePine managed employees, worked alongside these employees, and I won't even say employees, they're friends at this point, to accomplish great things for guests. If I hadn't had all those little pieces getting me here, all those little tight spots, I call them hourglasses. You cannot imagine fitting through that tight spot. It's great when it's in that big area. You're getting a little close to that tight spot. You're like, oh, and you can't see that it opens up again. And life is a series of those little hourglasses where it's so tight, confusing, painful, and the pain is in that transition. And you come out the other side. It's freedom again. You know that hourglass comes back together for perpetuity. Enjoy those free times. Don't worry as much about those tight spots. They will work out with hard work and dedication.
Yeah. Greg, what do you say to somebody who is in the beginning of their journey? Maybe they're very similar to how you explained where you were at when you've had your first child. What they want, they have this big vision, these big dreams and big passion, have the hard work ethic, but they just need a piece of advice. What do you say to somebody who's at that stage of life? Or if you could go back and talk to Greg at that time, what would you say to him?
It's a bummer. At 53, I'd say just trust in those pivot moments. Those hourglasses. If someone had said, and my grandmother was great, she wrote me positive thoughts, which is why we have positive thought books in the room. She wrote me positive thoughts because each transition of my life, and I say it like it was easy to go to Chico State. That was hard. I had a free ride at University of Portland or Pepperdine. I had to really fight to go to Chico State, which it seems illogical, but the fighting for it meant something. Fighting with my parents to accept that I was going to go there meant something. But that's every single one of these transitions. I'd say I'm here talking to you because I have stories. Just make some stories and understand. Follow your passion, like what you're passionate about. Trust your instincts, and then have it be original. Just be original. I think I'm watching AI today, and I use it to give me outlines for things, and it's easy. Yeah. And the outlines sound great. They're very accurate to what I want to say, but it's not my words. It's not my theory. It's not my original touch on things. AI is fantastic. It's going to work for people. It probably can tell you what you should go do based on your academic scores. You should be an engineer at Pepperdine or University of Portland. It won't tell you you should pivot to Chico State. You should trust your instincts and chase that gal who isn't quite into you as much as you are into her, but she has spiked a volleyball in your face and gave you an aggressive look. She tells you to piss off, and no other girl does. She wears sweatpants and sweatshirt every day of her life because she wants to feel comfortable, and she does not like to get up early like you. You got to trust those instincts and find your passion. It's not somebody else's. It is yours.
Greg, thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate you coming on. You've been a huge mentor in my life, both personal and business, and I really cherish our relationship. I look up to you for both the actions you take and the people you lead, and I just thank you so much for coming on, being on the podcast, and being a great, great mentor to me.
Thank you. You have to realize it's my time to be a mentor. Not mentor. I don't consider myself that. But it's my time to share my experiences so that maybe you don't replicate my negative spots. And I feel obligated and I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell the world, in this process of being driven, passionate, working, hustling, it looks like I have it figured out. My dad looks to me like he has it figured out. My friends look like they have it figured out. We're just figuring it out still. I'm still figuring out. My wife is 51% of the equation. She has guided our family far better than I could have. She had guided it. We guide it together incredibly well. But along the way, I lost a son to suicide. That is a huge piece of my equation. It looked like I had it figured out. If I'm passing on information to the next person, that bottle, that hourglass, is massive to understand. There is an opening at the end of it. You're going to find yourself, you, Dirk, will find yourself in tight spot. People coming at you. Don't see your way out of it. It gets really narrow. There's always going to be an opening at the end. You have wonderful people around you. You've accumulated those people, and they're going to be around you for a long time. My advice for anybody, adult who's watching their child struggle, or somebody struggling, know there's going to be that you step back from that big problem and you can see your way around it. If you're stuck looking at it close to your face, you cannot see your way around that problem. And then the final thing is that if I have a monster regret, which anybody with a loss of a child to suicide would tell you, we have regrets, is that I was pushing instead of pulling. My dad didn't say, you can't take that job. He said, why would you make money for somebody else? That resonates, that it wasn't jamming in my face, don't get a job with somebody else. And instead of pushing as a parent, I really wish I had pulled. I wish I would have said, hey, it's a tight spot. You'll see your way out of this. Never said that. I just pushed, like, figure it out, because I did. And it made me who I am today. But today I'd go back, tell everybody I can, pull them, grab them, get on the ground with them, see how close they are to the obstacle in their way, and walk through it with them. Give them your insight, share your stories, be honest and open about those tight spots in your life and how you remedied it, how you persevered, and how it felt to come out the other side. I think it's important for young folks to know that there is no railroad track to the fast way to the future, to success. I think there's a lot of these little pivots and side roads and dirt roads and high-speed Baja dirt bike roads
Greg Willits.
out in the future for you. But anyway, thanks for having me, Dirk, and good luck with your journey. I hope you're 53 sharing your story with as much comfort as I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you, Greg.
Love you too.
And with that, we'll see you on the next one.